Hello and welcome to Diving into the Great Wave off Kanagwa by Dylan Pryor, or me. As an introduction, the Great Wave off Kanagwa is a historically important piece of artwork that is made of a polychrome woodblock print. The composition was made by Katsushika Hokusai around 1830 to 1832. For this presentation, you will witness a description of formal qualities, subject, and additional facts, then an analysis of principles and elements of design found in the piece, following a dissection of interpretation. Finally, it will end on judgment of the work through the formal, contextual, and expressive theories. And to your right, you can see this is the piece, same as the slide, title slide. This is the Great Wave off Kanagwa. So here is a basic description. The formal qualities is it's 2D on just a simple piece of paper. It's classified as a polychrome woodblock print, so next to that of a painting. It's made by carving tool, the woodblock press, ink, and paper once again, and its dimensions are 25.7 by 37.8 centimeters, so about 10 by 14 inches. The subject is a giant tsunami wave, 3 historically accurate Japanese boats, and a snow-topped mountain in the background, which is confirmed as Mount Fuji. Some basic facts is it was made between 1830 and 1832. Historical background is known is a period of isolationism in Japan under the Tokugawa shogun from 1615 to 1868. Shogun believed Christianity and foreign influences were threats to the stability of the country. Woodblock prints were popularized like trading cards during this period of Japan. So would be the Great Wave off Kanagwa. Mount Fuji was a personal / spiritual obsession for Hokusai, the author. Mount Fuji was seen as an important symbol of strength and stability in Japan, and its isolated and enveloped tradition and culture. And on the bottom right here, this is not the best quality of image, but this is supposed to be a depiction of the Tokugawa shogun and kind of how the ruling would go with like one great emperor and multiple other members. All right, next slide. So let's go into analysis. The piece starts with the viewer's eye attached to the wave. It's the biggest part of the piece and what is expected with the title The Great Wave. Additionally, this wave dominates the left side in scale and size, creating an imbalance and establishing it as the authority of the piece. Then, as you reach the tips of the wave up here, it's noticeable that they appear as like white claws, almost like they are coming to grab the men in the boats, hinting at its enormity and power as well as the fragility of the boats. Even the smaller waves filling up the foreground and surrounding these boats continue to emphasize the dramaticism. Also knowing that their curvilinear lines of the small waves lead up to the bigger wave. These curvilinear lines are also how balance is achieved despite the dominance of the Great Wave, because they lead into the right as the waves that seem as the predecessor to the one on the left. The rest of the work is unified through the rhythmic design of the ocean and the consistent yet varied blue, light blue, and white color palette. Even outside the rhythm, the other major elements like the mountain and boats consist of these colors, or at least a close alternative. And as you can see, these claws are coming to grab these and point, they're pointing also to these men in the boats and Mount Fuji, so it's kind of looping all the elements. So your focus is still in the center of the piece and the wave itself. Interpretation. Since the Great Wave of Kanagwa is part of Hokusai's series of the 36 views of Mount Fuji, the print is then simply just a depiction of land with some exaggeration. As information suggests, Hokusai lived mainly in Tokyo and far from its ports, so he never actually saw any of the tsunamis or waves like the one showed. With this evidence, it suggests that the piece is simply just an abstract landscape piece focused like the rest of his series on Mount Fuji. And on the left here, you can see this is one of the other pieces from that 36 series. Other analysis suggests that it could simply point to the idea of nature and man and the contrast between the forces due to the ships heading straight into the Great Wave. However, with a few ideas and understanding found in my contextual analysis, I see another possibility for representation. I believe the Great Wave off Kanagawa could actually be symbolically referencing Japan and its state in the world. Mount Fuji would be Japan, as it is isolated in the background from the other elements, as was Japan during this area of history under the Shogun rule. The boats would then represent Japan's culture and tradition, while the wave would then be the rest of the world and its technology advancement gained, since this all occurs around the Industrial Revolution. Now breaking into formal and expressive theories of art criticism. So for formal theory, this is a normal size print and is majorly recognized for the scale and proportion of the wave itself. When put into realistic calculations, it's that of a tsunami most recognizable with, and it's supposed to say Antarctic waves. Next to consider is the use of lines and directional forces inside the piece. While curvilinear lines make the viewer trace into the Great Wave, the points of the wave make up the directional forces of implied lines to shift the viewers to focus on Mount Fuji and the boats, as I was saying earlier in my analysis slide. Along with the use of the same color palette of blue, light blue, and white, seen in rhythmic design, this work achieves unity of all its elements to put the focus where it should belong, on Mount Fuji. In technicality, this is part of Hokusai's 36 Views of Fuji, but it's recognized as the Great Wave. Expressive theory. Swirling lines, white claws, steep and massive shapes, and murky clouds. Katsushika Hokusai's The Great Wave off Kanagawa is representative of an unlikely fate. Japanese men in their boats surrounded by chaotic water shaped into a singular tsunami wave. This piece is a symbol and tale of man versus nature, with Mount Fuji isolated in the background. This isolationism symbolizes how the men are at sea, while in the group of fellow rowers, they are cut off from their homeland and are headed to a point of no return. The piece is a true display of fear, power, beauty, and perhaps fate. Next is contextual theory of art criticism. And the two images, first off, on the left is another woodblock print, like I spoke of earlier, and this is kind of what would more be sold at markets in the trading card style, because they were mostly appreciative of nature and actors, but the nature prints were more common, just like how Mount Fuji's is. And then on the right is supposed to be a depiction of Japan during the Shogun rule, technically also called the Edo period. So, for my contextual theory, it took place in the Edo period of Japan, 1607 to 1867, which was under the rule of Tokugawa shogunate, which were based in what is now modern-day Tokyo. While there was stability in economics and society, there was still a strict class structure, in respective order, with the highest being emperor, then nobility, samurai, peasants, craftsmen, and finally merchants. However, this did not stop the production of arts. In fact, this area is actually recognized for people enjoying arts and variety of entertainment. This exploration into sensual and sexual is referred to as yukio. Some examples are taking pleasures in life were kabuki theater, geshas, or female dancers, sumo wrestling, Japanese puppet theater, or bunraku, literature and poetry, and so much more. Additionally to this period, there were yukio prints, a form of painting, woodblock prints, centered around this urban culture. As I said, once again, this is a yukio print. The Great Wave was one of these yukio prints. In the beginning, though, these prints were for beautiful women, seasons, actors, and then eventually nature. People enjoyed these depictions because it depicted the fleetingness of lifestyle and desire. While it seems Hokusai's print of the Great Wave being of any other with a nature subject matter, it could symbolically be analyzed for more. With Mount Fuji so isolated in the background, makes people think of Japan's behaviors during this area. The ships then be symbols of their culture and technological advancement, since the boats are still human-powered and wooden. Finally, deducing that the wave is all the other nations of the world and their technological advancement. Now, to wrap up, the first to tell on the right is, once again, that same image from earlier. These are all collectively from Hokusai's 36 views of Mount Fuji. The Great Wave off Kanagawa by Katsushika Hokusai is an important artwork in our history. Through analysis and multiple theories of art criticism, the piece can be seen as a riveting use of shapes, lines, rhythm, and asymmetry that makes a defined power and unified work. While through my interpretation I saw the potential for work to speak on Japan's situation in this area, it truly is a landscape work displaying the simplest battle of man versus nature. Finally, it simply is just any other woodblock print of the time, but a completed part to Hokusai's 36 views of Mount Fuji. And here's my works cited. Thank you for listening.